Welcome to the Billy Ho Forecast Show. Please subscribe and like the video. Remember, the more you share, the bigger we grow. Now, let's go! Hello, Billy Ho here. We're going to talk 3M Open this week back in Blaine, Minnesota. I'm joined today by the DFS chef on the Tuesday show, David. How goes it?
I'm doing good. Last week was nice. Hit the bets on Cam Smith, so that put some more money in the pocket. And DFS wise was positive. I wish I could have said it would have been better positive, but I had the right guys that we were looking at, but didn't have all the right guys in one lineup. But still was positive fantasy wise.
Yeah. I did, and that's one thing that makes me miss betting, because Cam Smith was the very first guy that I caught on to I did my Monday preview show, and the first thing I said, I hope I don't get too much tunnel vision on this guy, because sometimes I do get locked into these dudes and I end up going overboard. But that would have worked out just fine had I done that. But the guy that I actually did get locked in too much on was Webb Simpson. I only lost counting Yahoo and DK both. Webb only cost me like 8 or 9, 6 of 6s. So, it is what it is. But we'll close the book on the Open. Congrats to the mullet, Cam Smith. And we're going to head to Blaine, Minnesota, to TPC Twin Cities. And we're going to hit up some golfers here and DraftKings price. All right, Dave, I'm going to let you kick us off in the 9K and up range, since we've only got limited few there. So go ahead and get us started, brother.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can see my model and you can see the ranks that we got, 7 guys, 9K and above. And of the 7, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those guys are in the top 5 of the 7 in my model. It's only Tuesday as we record this, so I'm wondering if we see a couple more of these guys possibly withdraw from this tournament. We've had quite a few. We actually had 2 more literally, just before we started recording this show. Granted, they weren't like big names that withdrew. I think it was Duffy Waldorf and Eric Axley that decided that decided to withdraw. So I don't think anyone was planning on using any of those 2 guys. But it wouldn't shock me if we see maybe 1 or 2 of these guys, especially guys that played across the pond last week, decide, I'm just going to duck out of this one. But for me, all the way up top, and when we talk all the way up top, it's not like all the way up top like we're used to. We're used to, 11K plus. So I fully understand the industry getting on Tony Finau, especially in cash game plays. I get it. It's even if you go Tony and even a 9K guy, you can still make solid lineups without even having to go under 7K. So I fully understand Finau in cash. I don't know if I get there for him in GPPs. I mean, what are we talking? I think he's only won two tournaments, 3 tournaments, something like that in all his years playing on the PGA right now. So
I believe just the 2.
Yeah. Puerto Rico and then the Northern Trust last year, I think is all. So I might do what we're talking about, or what I talked about last week, and that was going possibly 3 guys in the 9K range or 2 guys in the 9K range and then a high upper 8 guy. So I definitely think Maverick McNeely is someone I'm looking at this week. He found he was on a little cold spell for a little bit, but over the last 3 tournaments, he seems like he's starting to regain some form. Granted, Barracuda is not like one of those like strength of field tournaments that are too crazy, but he was in the mix last week, and then he was across the pond for the Scottish and had a top 20. So I definitely look at that. And then John Deere is one of the comp courses I'm looking at. He had an 8th place finish at the Deere. So I definitely can get behind some Mav McNeely in that range, and then everyone seems to be on Davis Riley. So for me, I think it's going to come down to exactly how much he's owned on whether or not I go Davis Riley. In cash, I can understand just eating that chalk, but for GPPs, if he's like crazy, projected ownership, I might swerve off of him and find someone that's going to be lower projected.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good plan. I'm of maybe the thought of taking two of these 10K guys and starting with that, because I do think people are going to go heavy balance this week, or just one guy. I don't see anybody stacking, because you can do Tony and Sungjae easily, and you'd have to skip the 9Ks, but you could get down into the 8Ks and 7Ks and find some really good guys, and you would even have to really dip maybe just slightly into the sixes. So I might be interested in that. Like you said, Finau is so tough to pass up. He's going to be 30% in most tournaments, and probably the single entry higher dollar ones, you're talking 40%. So be mindful of that. Single entries, people are going to go with the safest guy that they have with the most possible upside. Decky, I didn't like him, or actually both him and Sungjae. I didn't like either one of them on that European style links stuff, but they still played all right. I like them both back here on fast bent greens, especially Decky. I think, and this is a good course for him to dial in the approach. If he stays in the tournament, I don't know, but I think M stays in. He's another one I didn't like on UK soil. I think he's a great course fit. He's got left to right ball flight, which fits because most of these holes can dogleg to the right and avoid water trouble. The surface switch, he lost a ton of strokes putting over the weekend. That's why he DFL'd after the cut. I think the surface switch helps. I think Honda is a comp course. Honda is just a harder course, which he won on. Now getting into the 9Ks, I think the Gala was fantastic at the Open. He's a great course fit too. He has the left to right ball flight off the tee. Another guy that I like a lot. And I'm going to jump over here and just kind of take a look at some of I think this mixed condition model might be interesting. Let's see here. All right. Davis Riley, obviously everything but putting, but his recent form, actually his last month hasn't been all that. And at his ownership, I may look elsewhere. One guy that kind of might have interest in is Adam Hadwin. I know his recent form hasn't been good, poor ball striking, and the only thing that's carried him is around the green game, which is irrelevant at this week, basically. So it's going to be hard to pull the trigger on him. So he'll be low owned, but two top tens here at 19 and 21. He skipped 20. So I think maybe the course fits his eye. And I look back in his 21 form, he had 3 straight missed cuts coming in before he finished 6th. So I think maybe it's just a course that he might just like. So at a lower ownership, I'm interested. If you, I don't know if you can't really call that a sleeper, but I lost my, there we go. But if you look at the higher end ownership, it's like guys like Sungjae and Hadwin are great pivots because they're sub, even Decky. I mean, some of these guys are way up there in ownership. So those are the 9K guys. I might have some interest in Maverick. He seems like he'd be a good course fit. But getting into the 8Ks, one of the guys that really, really catches my eye is Cam Davis. He's been striking it really, really well. The one thing he is a little wonky, and this is like just a short last month model, which is probably just last 2 or 3 events. So I looked at that, and the last 2 events, good drives, he's 10th. So he's kind of hitting it a little bit better off the tee. He's not so wild. And the dude just tears up par 5s. He's an eagle maker. and he puts. I think his best putting surface is a fast bent. Just under him, I mean, keep the cams rolling. Cam Smith last week. Why not one of these two Cams this week? Cam Tringali at 8,800 has done nothing to deter me from thinking, I'm not worried about the travel because I think he had 1 or 2 weeks break over the last 6 weeks anyway. So I don't think he's going to be wore out or anything. And these guys, he's one of them kind of Christian type golfers. He like he's on the straight and narrow kind of guy. So I have a good feeling he's going to be poised and ready to play. I mean, you can look at his last 12 rounds. He's destroying the birdies, par fours, DK points. The approach game is there, and he is a better bent surface putter. So I feel like he can be a little bit of a bounce back guy in that category. Last guy I'll mention is in the eights. I mean, there's all kinds of guys down here. So I imagine, Dave, we'll talk about him here in just a second. But I mean, Mr. Cash Game, Brendan Steele, I guess, is here. He doesn't really dazzle me in any way, but he just gets it done with the ball striking and puts himself in position. And he might just put you out of the tournament if you're not careful. But the one thing I did like about him was he lost 6.2 strokes putting at Travelers. So it's hard to do that even for a poor putter twice. So I think he'll have some positive regression in that category. So get into the 8Ks, Dave, and you can lead us into the 7Ks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds like we're all on the same 8K plays here. I'm also looking at backing Cam Davis. I do think I do think that guys that have a little bit longer distance do have a little bit more of an edge here. The fairways, even though they say that they narrowed them, they're still wider than the tour average. So I don't think you're going to be too penal unless you find the water, which obviously we do have a lot of water. I think it's 15 of the holes water comes into play, and out of those 15 holes, there's like several holes that have multiple water hazards that can come into play. So I mean, unless you're finding the water, you should be fairly safe. So I do like Cam Davis. I do like Cameron Tringale. This might be the week that Tringale finally gets his first win. He's been close. He did have a third place finish here in 2020, and he's been looking good. Last week, not the best, 62nd, but the Scottish Open, he was in the mix after that 9 under first round, and then he just kind of faded the rest of the rounds. But Tringale can go low if he needs to. Adam Long is someone that's he's not the longest hitter on tour, obviously, but there are other ways you can get around on this course, and he showed that with a second place finish in 2020 here. JT Poston is like the Ricky Bobby, especially if you look at his recent form. If you're not first, you're last. Missed the cut at the Open, but then he won the JDC, was second at the Travelers, missed the RBC Canadian. So it's like top 10 or missing the cut. So I do think Poston's in play. I'm with you on Brendan Steele. He's one of the best, ball strikers out there right now. And I do think that he's going to be heavily owned in cash. I do really like Nick Hardy at 8K even though he doesn't have any course history here. He's just been on fire recently. I mean, ball striking on point. Every part of his game seems like it's on point. The last like 7 or 8 weeks. So yeah. I do really like Nick Hardy. And
if you remember, just real quick, Dave, if you remember who right here, I think it was his first tournament here. I brought him up in our chat, and I couldn't really remember why I liked him so much. I was like, well, I think it's just a gut call. And then after that, he just goes on this tear. But I just remembered him as just a really good, maybe he's not fantastic at everything, but he's really good at everything. So yeah. I really like him too. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, and I don't remember if it was Rick that brought this up or if it was 925 Sports. If he, I think it was 925 Sports that brought it up. possible correlation between Canadian golfers and Minnesota. I mean, it's not like it's that far apart,
Yeah,
but
true.
you look at success, like you mentioned, Adam Hadwin's had success here. We'll get down to that 7K range. Michael Gligich, Canadian.
Gligic. Yeah, Svensson.
Adam Svensson, Canadian. He's
Mm-hmm.
only played here once, but it was a 15th place finish in 2019. Nick Hardy is Canadian. So I can even see possible making a Team Canada lineup this week because it does seem like the Canadians do well at this course. So as we go down into that 7K range, I know Chris Gotterup is getting talked up a bunch. I don't know where I'm at with him. If he's going to garner that kind of ownership, I will probably fade Gotterup and pivot to Nick Hardy for only $100 more. I'm sure Hardy's going to get a good amount of ownership as well, but
Yes,
Gotterup
Hardy's really owned. Yeah,
yeah.
23.
All right, so it sounds like they're about the same because I'm hearing Gotterup getting a ton of ownership as well, and obviously Svensson's going to be getting a ton of ownership. He's
really
ranking sixth in my model. You know, his recent form is right there. So I mean, I understand Svensson. He's going to probably be a solid cash game play as well as being used in GPPs. Here's like one of my first sleepers. I don't know where his ownership is currently showing right now, but Troy Money Merritt is one of my first sleepers. He has local ties here. He went to school in Minnesota, and he's always one of those guys that can put up some low scores. And I think that he's probably going to be easily half the projected ownership as Ju Young Kim or Tom Kim, as some people are calling him. And I understand people, jumping on board the Kim train. But the one thing that I am hearing in the industry is, can he go low? He surprisingly, I think, is like ranking pretty high in birdie or better percentage, but he hasn't shown us the ability to go, 17, 18, 19 under, which is probably what it's going to take to win this week. To make the cut, no problem. I understand getting, using Kim in cash, but I wouldn't mind pivoting some of that projected ownership to Troy Merritt, because we know that Merritt can put up those low scores, and he's got the course history here. He did miss one cut in 2020, but other than that, it's been solid. So I definitely like Merritt as a first sleeper play.
My first sleeper actually is at 7.8K, and that's Cameron Champ. Now Champ is interesting to me. He's got his typical 5 straight missed cuts, and then he pops. So I feel like he's due for that again. And I think there's something about the course that works for him. He's worth a look at 5% ownership. And I'm with you on Gotterup, 20%. I can fade that. For some reason, that cut he bombed out at Barbasol, I went back and looked. He lost 5.2 strokes around the green at Keene's Trace in Nicholasville, Kentucky. I didn't know that it was such a tough around the green. That course is not that hard. So I don't know why he lost, unless he chipped it in the water or something around the green. But Cam Champ was the first sleeper. Svensson was another guy, and I'd been playing him. But that ownership, if he's pushing 30% ownership, man, it's really going to be hard for me to get down with. But and the putter, if you remember, everybody said, oh, if he could just putt, he'd tear it up. Well, his last 6 out of 7 events, he's been on fire with the putter. So he might have some regression coming. So I don't really know what to think about him. He was 15th in 2019 here, and he lost 5 strokes putting. So he might just be so damn good with the ball striking, it's not going to matter. So he's definitely a cash play. But the other guy you did mention was Troy Merritt. He was one of my sleepers, and maybe I can give you a little bit different angle. I completely forgot about the Minnesota ties, but I remember Pat Mayo used to always mention the dude thrives in these hot, humid July conditions. He always plays good golf. But he has played well at other times this year. And the only problem, he's been suffering out of his 6 out of his last 7 events, lost on approach. But he went over to Scotland and played in the Scottish Open, and he was +2 approach in that strong of a field. So maybe he's found a little something. Another guy down here in the 7s that I'm going to look at is Austin Smotherman. Tee to green is great. He just suffers a little bit on the par 5s and on the putting a little bit, but this is just his last 8 rounds. So if you go over to the mixed condition model, he looks a little stronger. He ranks 21st, and birdie or better 25th, par 4 scoring 28th. Pretty solid across the board for a guy you can probably get at, what do you say, about 11%, 10 to 12%. I don't know. This is Fantasy National ownership, so it's probably a couple ticks higher than it will be in real life. Another guy I kind of like is Wyndham Clark, just to get out there and bomb and putt. He's 7.5K. And big greens make it easier. He's a little bit weaker on the approach, but he's decent. He just kills it off the tee, 200 plus. So he's going to be getting home in 2. Par 4 scoring's excellent, DK points. So, and his putting is, like I said, he's probably one of the better putters in the field. So looking at him, I keep forgetting they call him Tom Kim. I want to say Joe Kim because his name starts with J-O. So I just keep wanting to call him Joe Kim. But he's somebody that I might have interested in. Nick Taylor's another Canadian you were talking about. I hadn't really written him up or anything, but he's always a guy that I love to play because when he gets hot, he gets hot. And like he's 10th in approach. This is over the last, April through June. I kind of did some weird custom model stuff. I cut out July just because a couple of these easier events, or if they played overseas, because I didn't really want to see that. So I kind of went through the end of June there. So he's got some good numbers. And I think the sleepers, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the 6Ks so we can finish off. I didn't want to go too long on this week. But the first guy I want to bring up in the 6K range is sleeper. And that is Mr. Where'd he go? Big Bank Hank Labiota. He's back to making cuts, strokes gained par 4, putting well, and he's kind of Joe average his last several events. These are all April through June, but he seems to like this course. He's got 2 good finishes and a withdrawal last year. But if you remember, last year he withdrew after shooting back-to-back 69s and making the cut at 4 under. But he had some sort of family emergency or family issue. It wasn't anything injury-wise. He just had to go. And he was in the midst of like one of the best runs of his career then. So the guy, got to be commended for that. But another guy I wanted to mention, and I'll let Dave clean us up here, and stop me if I'm wrong, Dave, Roger Sloan, another Canadian?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And he hasn't been in real great form lately. 7 straight missed cuts. So we call that he's due. But no, actually, I kind of like those guys because the dude he's not a bad golfer. And somebody that misses 7 straight cuts, he's going to make a freaking cut sooner or later. So I like him. He putts better on fast bent greens, and he's got pretty decent course history. And he did fail at the Barbasol, but he actually was +3 on approach. So I think maybe he's going to be due for a good week. Hopefully the Canadian narrative holds true. But honestly, I haven't looked at everybody because you can see how many 6K players. There must be 50. So that's going to take some more going through. So why don't you bring us on home, Dave? Give us a few sleepers and some 6K guys.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to rattle off a couple 7K just real quick.
Yeah, do that too. I think I left.
Also like.
Okay, go ahead, man. Sorry.
And I also like and also could be some sleepers. Grayson Sig, obviously Patton Kazire. Patton Kazire always seems to outperform his finishing position. He's made the cut here 3 straight years that it's been played here. So I do like some Patton Kazire. Hayden Buckley. It should be a sleeper. He's a longer hitter. He's a good hitter. He was in a stretch of some cold run, but it seems like he's found it recently. He's made 4 straight cuts in a row. 7,100. I can get some Hayden Buckley. Callum Tarrant is being talked up in the industry some at an even 7K. I already mentioned Gligic. Gligic is probably going to be higher owned. He's a cash game play for me, I think. Now we dip into the below 7K. This guy's form recently has not been great. He did have a strong finish at the Barracuda, and he's got solid history here. Bryce Garnett is someone that I think could be someone to look at this week. Obviously, Justin Lauer is someone that's being talked up in the industry at 6,900. I'm with you on Lebiota. We keep going down, and I'm going to go low for you. This is a sleeper, and he's probably going to be sub 2% owned, all the way down at 6,300 for me. At 6,300, I think this guy's mispriced, to be honest with you. He's played here once and he withdrew. I don't know why he withdrew back in 2020, but I believe he's made something like 6 straight cuts. Sung Yul No.
Yeah.
He is a winner on the PGA Tour, folks. He has won a tournament. Remember, he had, I think, 2 years off from the PGA Tour because he had to serve in the military in Korea. But this guy is a good golfer. Especially at 6,300. Like I'm saying, I think he is mispriced at 6,300. And then I even watched Smash Factor earlier this morning, and Gup was mentioning Jason Duffner. I believe Duffner is from around this area or within that, within this kind of range. It seems like he likes this course. He has made 2 straight cuts. Granted, it's the alternate field events with the Barbasol and the Barracuda. But at 6,200, it could be worth a dart, especially if you wanted to go, like you were mentioning, if you wanted to go with like Finau and Im or Finau Hideki or Hideki and Im. If you wanted to start with 2 10K guys and still have plenty of room on the table, Sung Yul No and Jason Duffner might be some great salary savers and darts and GPPs.
All right, man, that's great. I think we covered quite a bit there, brother. I did want to mention a couple other things. You were talking about the 15 holes and water in play, and I kind of went through, and I didn't realize how much, but water is in play on almost all these holes. It says 15, but like you said, it's water in play more than once. Like hole number 2, water, you have to hit the off the tee fade over the water. The approach is over the water. The water's to the left on the par 3 4th. Then you have the par 5 6th. Water, if you're going home in 2, you got water to the left. And then I think the par 5 9th off the tee is safe, but your approach shot, water to the right. 10th hole is a layup hole, but there's water to the right. The water to the right off the tee on the par 5 12th. Water to the left on both off the tee and approach on 14. The par 3 17th is over water, which is kind of like the classic island-ish type hole. So if wind comes into play, and of course 18 is water off the tee to the left, and your second shot is over water. And that's the one that kind of, I think I might have that wrong with the left off the tee. It either dog legs around and you have to hit over the water, and it's a big risk reward on your second shot is the main thing. You can probably avoid the water, but that's just kind of a quick recap. We're gonna go ahead and sign off now. The DFS at the DFS Chef David on Twitter. I appreciate you coming on with me. His stat model is still for sale for anybody, $1 a week. Same as always, 25 for the year. Hit him up on the DMs and he'll set you up. Billy Ho, all I ask for is hit that subscribe and that like button. Subscribers have been a little stagnant lately. I'm stuck on just a little under 125. I'd like to get that up a little bit more. So tell your friends, get anybody, they don't necessarily have to be a golf fan. Just be, a fan of you, and get them to subscribe to Billy Ho Sports. And until the next time, peace.